your advice to budding architects and your mantra of success.
I should have retired long time ago.
No.
Yeah. But architecture is one of those lines where you die with your boots on. And if you're willing to die with your boots on, then you are successful. Which means you're enjoying what you're doing. I don't think success in architecture necessarily means how many projects you're doing at any one time or how many awards you're winning. I think whatever you do, irrespective of the size of the project, has the project served its purpose? Not just managed, but has it served its purpose the way you intended to serve? If that is done, then you're successful. If you win an award, that's a bonus. If you start to win an award, then you'll end up designing the building to make it architecture friendly and architect friendly and not user friendly. So I think for me, architecture is all about commitment, it's all about integrity, it's all about honesty to yourself and to your client and to the people around you. Because architecture is not like my watercolors which you keep in your house and only you look at it. Architecture is what people are going to look at it as they walk past. You are interfering with them. There is an intervention. Anything you build is an intervention into people's sensibilities. Even if they're not going to use the building, the fact that they have to see it when they drive past it is an intervention in their lives. So you are responsible to them also. You're not just responsible to your client and see how much money he's going to make out of the mall and the hospital. You're also you're interfering with the traffic that is going past that mall that has got not going in and out of the mall. Yeah, if it's going to cause a traffic jam outside, then your mall is not successful. Because you are looking at the success of the developer or the owner of the mall, but you are not looking at what problems you have caused with the traffic that is just going past the mall. So there is a failure in architectural design. You cannot pass that failure onto the local authorities and say, well, it's up to the Pune Municipal Corporation to widen the road or provide a bus stop or provide a traffic light. No. Do you go and ask the Pune Municipal Corporation to chop off a hill or create a hill? No. You are taking the site as it is. Why do we look at a site only from a physical aspect of it? Has it got trees? Has it got a hill? Has it got slopes? Has it got a river passing? Has it looking at a beauty? No. You have to look, if you are doing it in an urban situation, the road that you are on, the neighboring plot owners around are your physical characteristics of your property, right? Of your plot. So you have to take that into account. Just because it's a flat site, just because it's on a 80 feet road, doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good for a mall. Or if you go and build a large Mangal Karyalaya or a wedding lawns and all that, right next to a hospital, you can't say, well, the corporation is giving me permission. Corporation are not architects. There is not a single architect in any Pune Municipal Corporation. They won't understand that the noise that you are going to create over there is how it's going to affect the hospital. They are not going to understand the traffic that is going in and out of a multiplex, what problems you are going to cause. To them, have you complied with the bylaws? And they give you that's the end of it. But then you are a bad architect.
not thought of getting completely.
People think you comply with Vastu and that's final formula for success. It's not true. If you comply with all the bylaws, that is not a solution.
It's a part of
Part and parcel of the whole gambit of architecture. One other point, Kirti, which colleges need to do for budding architects is to train them in self-discipline. I know a lot of people think, oh, that was the job of the parents and the job of the school and the NCC and the scouts or whatever, and that is finished and it's not our job anymore. As long as you've got a student under you, it doesn't matter if it's a kindergarten child or a postgraduate student. It doesn't matter. That person is under your care. And as a teacher, as an institution, you have to train that person in self-discipline. Children come out of school and they're very disciplined. They know school starts at 9 o'clock and they'll be there. Why is it that when they go into working for an office, 9 o'clock can be 9 or 5 past 9, 10 past 9, 9:15, 9:30. Why? Why have they forgotten? I feel that they forget this because the colleges do not impart any discipline of any kind, except make your submission on that day. Beyond that, nothing. But then what happens is they just kill themselves making sure that their design project is submitted on time and finished. That's not enough. Discipline is how you dress and how you speak and how you conduct yourself with your colleagues, with your client, with your contractors, what questions you should be asking, what questions answers you should expect, courtesy to your clients, is making sure that punctuality in not just attending office on time, but delivering your drawings on time, accurate drawings on time. I get applicants from large offices from Bombay and people like that. And we ask them, tell me your method of QA. And they ask me, what is the meaning of QA? What happens? This is, students are not being trained into quality assurance. They're not being trained in punctuality. And this is part and parcel of integrity and commitment. This is where KPOs helped. So, why is it that when we are working for foreigners, we make sure that we are 100% accurate and we are on time? And when we are working for Indian clients, we don't need to do a QA and we don't need to ensure that the drawings go on when they're supposed to go. Why? It is the same people, weren't they?
Yes.
Yeah. When our KPO people moved back into our architectural studio, they should leave all that punctuality behind and come. So is it that only if we have a foreign client we have to be accurate and punctual? Why is it that you don't teach consciously teach final year and fourth and final year students what professionalism is all about? Professionalism is not just designing a fancy looking building and form and function. It is the professionalism includes discipline, integrity. How many people, does your college teach them conditions of contract? Do you make them understand what do they mean? There is an Indian Institute of Architects Articles of Agreement, right?
Yes.
That for us in India is the Bible. Why is it that all these guys I get coming freshers or even 2 years experience or 6 years experience don't know anything on the Articles of Agreement? Do you know that Articles of Agreement may be slightly outdated, maybe the language is old, but do you know if they understand every paragraph in there, they will learn a hell of a lot of what architectural profession is all about. Because that makes it mandatory what your duties are, what your responsibilities are, what your rights are, and similarly what the rights are of the client, of the contractor, what their duties are, who's responsible for what, is very well laid down in there. But nobody knows this. You teach them how to measure quantities, don't you? So most of them, when they come, they know the basics of how to prepare a bill of quantity. But how to relate that to the drawings is another issue. There is something between the drawing and the bill of quantities, no? Which is called technical specifications. Why is that none of them know how to write a technical specifications anymore? When do you teach them? In second or third year? And then what happened in the fourth and fifth year? So, to me, a good thesis would be all that.
Compilation of all the years.
I would then feel that this final year student who's graduating knows the art and craft of architecture. Not only the art of architecture, there's also craft of architecture. And the craft of architecture is everything else beyond design.
The built part.
The how to build it, how to deal with consultants, how to deal with your colleagues,
Overall process.
everything. That's the craft of it. What are the rules, regulations, bylaws? That's the craft of it. When I see a thesis and I ask them, where is your site? And they tell me it's in Pune Municipal Corporation. I don't question them on the design part of it. I question them on the bylaws. And they invariably tell me, oh, our guide said do not pay too much attention to that at this stage, just concentrate on design.
It's a lot of it.
I've got today a fresher who started and he got something like 86% or something like that in his design. It's a centrally air-conditioned building with no AC plant. And I asked him, where is the air-conditioning plant for? He said, my guide said it was not very important to show it at this stage. It's a design thing. That's not design. But design should be something that you can present it to your client and say, look, this is what I propose to build for you. And the client will say, oh, having taken into account that my building is air-conditioned, oh, sorry, I forgot that. Have you taken into account that my building is going to be in a very rocky area when you propose 2 basements? Have you taken that into account? Oh, sorry, I have not. You can't. A design thesis should be your first cut concept to a client. And first cut concept takes into account the function, the location, the situation, the rules, regulations, the soil conditions, the climatic aspects, the basic guts that will be required. Can you design a mall and say, I've forgotten, at this stage I'm not showing the AHU areas, or where the toilets are required, or where the emergency staircases are, and what is the distance between 2 staircases? How can you propose a mall to a client? And they say, afterwards go back and say, look, I have to add 5 more staircases because my distance is... That is the craft of architecture. So, when you have a jury for your final year thesis, treat it as a first cut concept presentation to a client, and do not allow internal jurors internal faculty who have more than 5% or 10% say in that. Because you're calling a professional architect as an external tutor. That professional architect should be able to have the authority for marking at least 75%. If you have 50%, 50% internal, external, you have got a prescription for 100% passing, isn't it? Well, you're not, your role, our institute's role is not ensuring that every student passes. Your role is to ensure that every student has become a professional architect. And if that student has to fail, they must fail. And that doesn't mean that, you know, there was a wedding in his family or his mother was not well and he missed so many days and therefore we should give him extra marks for this. This is not professional. So when you present a first concept to a client, don't you give everything, area calculations, the bylaws, you show the circulation, you tell him what the building materials will be, approximately what it's going to cost, will it fit in there, can it be built, it shows you what roughly the structure is going to be. You know, you're not going into a great detail, but at least he understands what should be the column grid and that he cannot just make an envelope without any structures in there. He cannot design. He has to have that much information for the client to say, yes, let's go and develop this, or let's make these changes and develop it. That is, and if you can feel that the client can say, yes, let us go ahead and develop, that person should pass. If a client says, this is not what, impossible, I can't build this is not going to serve my purpose, there are no services, where are the cars going to come in, where are they going to park, where are the air conditioning, where is the water tank, how is the firefighting, where is the fire brigade going to go around the campus if there's a fire. All this is important. This is part of it. So unless there is art and the craft, you should not pass the students' design thesis.